and kick, and 1, and 2.
Scott Owens along with Billy Blanks.
Now stretch, cool it down.
Like I told you last time, I enjoyed Denise Austin more than Billy Blanks. In fact, I saw her not long ago. I think she's still viable. Where's Billy?
So he put out what? How many videos did he put out? I mean, it was
150.
Yeah,
could it have been 150?
Like, how many Tybo moves are there really?
I can only think of 2. But I don't. Do you tie a bolo? See, I don't know if you just pulled the strings like it's a.
I don't know. These kids
Venetian
nowadays.
blinds.
These kids nowadays.
You know, bolo used to mean be on the lookout. I don't know how it ended up being a tie. That we had a district attorney a few years ago that every time they'd interview Oklahoma, the guy looked like McLeod wearing a bolo tie. Bob Macy, heck of a district attorney though.
No, I will find out where Billy Blanks is for you for the next show.
Bill, are we in the top 150 among crossover radio talk shows?
We've got to be.
Yeah, I'm thinking we're in the top 150. We mentioned earlier the top 150, and we're all going to be sick of it by the end of the year. So actually what I'm trying to do is move that forward so that instead of purging, say, November, you can get it out of the way by the second Saturday in October and get ready for OU Texas at that point. But last week we talked about the top 150 Oklahoma players. And, Bill, there was a lot of talk on the radio. A lot of people had their opinions. And I think that's all they're looking for, drive dialogue. And that's what we look for. That's what's fun. And what I liked about it was that there was enough argument and room between number 1 and number 2 at OU for there to be a lively discussion where you could respect both sides. I mentioned that I came down on the side of Baker Mayfield first and Leroy Selmon second. I mentioned a lot of people my age probably did not feel that way about it. But I'm guessing that their problem had more to do with how they see Baker Mayfield on the sideline a couple of times, and that's probably prejudiced them against somebody like Leroy Selmon, who's like a saint in Southwest Florida.
Well, and I'd hate to tell everybody, but you're probably going to get more kids like that this day of age.
Sure.
And especially with the access that these kids have now. I say kids. It's so weird now.
You're an old guy.
I know, right?
Old man, take a look at my life. I'm a lot like you.
I am graying, though. It is scary. It's, there's too many options for these kids nowadays, right? So you got Twitter, you got Facebook, you got YouTube.
Pinterest.
Which, by all the way, you can check us out on.
YouTube.
It's crossover radio, too. So it's crazy that these kids aren't going to have a mind of their own and say something and do something an 18-year-old would do. Like, it's crazy not to think that they wouldn't do that.
Well, I knew you when you were 19 or close to 19, and you were very not opiniated at all.
You didn't see my Twitter feed.
It didn't exist.
It really didn't. It's weird, though. So... And I'm not saying that, the Selmans and all of them didn't have something going on. You just didn't really have that much access to it. Unless you heard it from a friend who went to the party that he was at. I mean, it's a little bit different now.
Yeah, all I said about that, though, to defend the other side to some degree was there's a reason Baker Mayfield walked on at Oklahoma. And it wasn't because of what the Selmans and all the people did that continued to feed the monster that is OU football.
And that being said, you still had people like Brian Bosworth who were easily accessible at that point, and
too much so.
And there are kids out there who don't want that attention by any means, and a lot of them on OU don't seek that attention out. So it's a give and take thing, but you're going to get that occasionally now, especially more often than you ever saw 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah. Well, that's not an issue for Oklahoma State's top 150 because the first two players actually played at the exact same time. And once again, it's a little bit controversial. The number one player in the history of Oklahoma State football, Thurman Thomas.
What?
Thurman Thomas gained 1,000 more yards than Barry Sanders and keyed 4 OSU teams that won a combined 34 games. Barry Sanders, the 88 season's the greatest season in college football history, and he was an All-American kick returner in 1987. This is another one of those where it's fighting words for some diehard Orange Bloods. In my case, I see the argument. I don't know if I would even maybe call it 1 and 1A or call it a tie. But Thurman Thomas means an awful lot to the program. I just have a hard time getting past the fact that Oklahoma State has one Heisman winner.
Yeah.
And he's not number one. Number 3, Justin Blackman, and that is a result of 2 winning the Biletnikoff Award 2 times. Only one other player in college football history has done that. Somebody we talked a little bit about last week who imploded as a human being, and that's Michael Crabtree.
Yeah.
Number 4, Leslie O'Neal. And Leslie O'Neal was a nasty pass rusher, had a great career in the pros. 5 is going way back before my time. Bob Fenimore held the OSU rushing record. This is in the 40s of 2,299 yards. Held it for 31 years. And just like OU, Bill, where they had a guy from the 50s that still held the interception record at 17, Fenimore from the 40s still holds the OSU record at 18.
Wow.
Terry Miller. He was on campus when I was at Oklahoma State. Finished second in the Heisman to a guy named Earl Campbell and outrushed Earl Campbell that year. Terry Miller had a great nickname, Bill. Super Girdle. Miller was one of the first to wear suspension or support hose for his legs, and was one of the first guys to do that. He had like 38-inch thighs, but the thing about Terry Miller was he was the first legitimate 4'3" guy,
right?
And as big as he was, and he and one other guy came out the same year and were the top 2 high school running backs in the nation. Miller from Colorado, Elvis Peacock from Miami, Florida. Peacock goes to OU, Miller goes to OSU. But Miller, Bill, this is a true story. Initially, Oklahoma wanted to run what was called the Houston Veer, which was an option offense Bill Yeoman created at the University of Houston. It was very similar to the wishbone minus a fullback. Still had the option. But when they would run belly plays or run dive plays, they weren't successful. And the reason they weren't successful was because Miller was hitting the hole before the lineman could get up and make contact with the defensive lineman. That's how fast he was. They ended up having to go to the I formation just so he could get the ball a little further back to make his first move.
Kind of like how Adrian had to stand 8 yards back from the line as opposed to the normal 5.
Exactly. He was big too. He and Peacock were extremely good football players. One of my favorites, a lot of people don't know this, but I promise you, if you watch film on this guy, Mark Moore, defensive back 83 to 86, he was as big a hitter as I've ever seen play this game. Scott Hill from Oklahoma would be one of the guys that I would put on that list as well. Number 8, a guy that's infamous not only at the University of Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, but the University of Illinois. Hartley Dykes was able to get all 3 of those schools put on probation. But in the meantime, became the leading receiver in Big 8 history. And sometime, Bill, when we're picking on OU a little bit more, and I'm sure we get around Bedlam, I've got some stories to tell about some OU coaches that I know that tried to explain why there couldn't have been anything illegal because OU, was an option team, and why would we go after a guy that's a wide receiver? The hint is they were recruiting a guy from Henrietta named Troy Aikman and weren't going to continue to run the option. It didn't end up helping. All three went on probation. So Harley Dykes, not a great memory there. Number 9, we talked about him last week, Bill. R.W. McQuarters, defensive back, triple threat, great player, had a nice career with the Giants and 49ers in the pros. 10 is a guy a lot of people won't know. Neil Armstrong, not the one that walked on the moon, but Neil Armstrong played at Oklahoma State and then led the nation in receptions and was the head coach of the Chicago Bears for quite some time. Number 11 is Brandon Weeden. I think we all know Brandon's story. Number 12, James Washington. Bill, Washington having a great preseason with Pittsburgh. I think he's caught 4 touchdown passes now in the first 2 games.
So your first quarterback, Brandon Weeden at 8. Okay.
Yeah. Got within a 1/1000th of a percentage points of playing for a national title. Won the Big 12. Won the Fiesta Bowl. So, I don't think any other quarterback's as celebrated as he is. You could say Gundy.
Well, so if he's going to be your top quarterback, I think there's some other guys that you haven't said yet that I've been waiting for that I would rank above Weeden.
Quarterbacks?
Not quarterbacks.
Okay.
Not quarterbacks.
And I'm just going to hit some of the more popular names here, or ones that people may not know, but good ball players. 14, Rashawn Woods.
Tremendous.
7 touchdowns in one game against SMU. 15, this guy was nasty. Philip Dokes, defensive leader of the Big 12 title team, of a Big 8 title team. John Kolb played for the Steelers, 4 Super Bowls on their line. Kendall Hunter, number 17, All-American, rushed for over 4,000 yards in his career. You got Jerry Shirk, who's a great pro for the Cleveland Browns for years. And this is the guy, in my opinion, that is unbelievably underranked. And that's Kevin Williams at number 19. I'm not sure there's been a better pro from Oklahoma State than Kevin Williams was.
Well,
you've got the top 2 guys are in the Hall of Fame that 1 and 2.
Williams, and I'm still waiting for him, Russell Okung.
Yeah, he's on the list. He's a little further down.
Boy,
you talk about
solid pro.
Yeah, it's a shame he's got blood clot issues right now, keeping him out. So then Daryl Goforth, who was a great lineman at OSU in the 70s. Emmanuel Agba, number 21. Number 22, Alonzo Mays, tight end, had a great career. Number 23, another guy a little before me, but remember him so well, played for the Vikings as well, James Duck White. 24 is Mason Rudolph. 25, Jamal Williams, another guy with a great long career. 26, the mullet, Mike Gundy. Best quarterback between Fenimore and Weeden, still holds the Big 12 or Big 8 passing records. 27 is Ricky Young. 28, Russell Okung. Number 30, Des Bryant. 31, Jason Gilden, another guy with a great career with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Justin Gilbert, a guy that busted, really, was a great college player and just never quite figured it out once he got to Cleveland, Bill.
I think the Browns gave up on him kind of early and just seemed like he struggled after that.
Yeah. And then you've got guys like John Little, Reuben Gant, who was their first really super tight end, but he played in the Wishbone era. Here's a name that you might recognize, Bill, not from his name, but from his bloodline, Jim Spavital. And he is related to Jake Spavital, who has been and was the offensive coordinator at West Virginia under Dana Holgorsen. I think he has moved on. Not sure if he's in Houston or not. 39, Keith Burns. 40, Zach Robinson. We mentioned him. 43, the best linebacker I ever saw in college, John Corker. Why he's 43, I don't know, because that guy had a great career with the old Houston Oilers and was just nasty. 44, Justice Hill. 47, Ernest Anderson.
Do you think that's low?
He only played really 2 seasons that he, was a factor. So, 49, I think this guy's a little low. Josh Fields.
Yeah.
When you think about that he, as a freshman, came in and engineered the fourth quarter comeback against OU, and then the next year was a part of just a complete dismantling of OU. Every time he's announced in Stillwater, sorry, friends, but he is called the Cowboys' Sooner Killer. And he went 2-0 against OU, but he's number 49. And the reason I think he should be higher, Bill, is unlike a lot of people that are OSU fans that don't have a lot of good things to say about Les Miles, I will always defend Les Miles because he brought a toughness and an attitude that didn't exist until he got there, and Mike Gundy was able to co-opt that and drag it along with him even after Miles left. But that swagger doesn't exist unless you've got a guy like Josh Fields who has no fear come in and be the manifestation on the field of that swagger that Les Miles brought to OSU.
Let me ask you this. Does Gundy rate higher as a player or a coach?
I think he rates higher, in my opinion, as a coach.
I would agree. With that.
Because I think it's one thing to be able to show off some pretty good athletic skills as a quarterback, and it's even easier when the 2 guys you're handing it off to are both in the Pro Football Hall of Fame now, and the guy you were throwing to is Hartley Dykes.
Yeah.
And also, don't forget that back then, Oklahoma State had a pretty darn good defense. We mentioned guys like O'Neal and Mark Moore and some of these others. I'm just going to hit a couple of more here. Walt Garrison, number 56, that was a bad man. He was a heck of a running back, had a great career with the Dallas Cowboys. Quinn Sharp, the one thing that's interesting is how many kickers, and all of these guys were all Americans. Quinn Sharp's on here. By the way, Daria Butler, defensive end, sells insurance here locally. Great guy. You got DeJuan Woods, makes it at 66.
Yeah.
Darrett Williams, there's an award named for him. He's one of the finest people that ever played at Oklahoma State. Here's Joseph Randall at 71. What a waste of oxygen he turned out to be. But was a key player in the 2011 season to take them where they did. Then you got Dan Bailey, Josh Stewart, Chris Rockins, another guy all the way at 83. All Chris Rockins did was play for the Cleveland Browns for 6 or 7 years at corner. Adarius Bowman, long-time career in the CFL. Markel Martin, he and Parrish Cox, a couple of Waco kids that OSU was able to get. And we mentioned Melvin Gilliam. He was the guy along with R.W. McQuarters that was a two-sport guy there. Billy, number 92, Dexter Manley. Ooh. And I will just tell you, besides Kevin Williams, he's the best defensive lineman I ever saw come out of Oklahoma State. Number 93, and rising, Tylan Wallace. When all's said and done, he'll be quite a bit higher up that chain. Just a couple more. Larry Roach, another great kicker. You got Pettigrew at 103. Kenyatta Wright. I like saying Kenyatta as much as Yadier. But Kenyatta Wright. And then Trey Flowers. I think a lot of the people, OU fans, know that his cousin was Demetrius Flowers. Cliff Parsley, I love him. Had a 43-yard, one of the first guys to average over 43 yards punting the ball, Bill. He was the only decent player on that team, and he got way too many looks. And Rusty Hilger, number 123, actually quarterbacked a 10-win season in 84. They beat Baylor in the Astro Bluebonnet Bowl. Ooh. And then Jamie Blatnick, who was a key factor in the win over Stanford, just really harassed Andrew Luck in that fourth quarter, made it tough on him. Then you got guys like Vernon Morency, Greg Richmond from Douglas High School, who's now a linebacker coach at OSU, another kicker in Matt Fodge. Here's one of my favorites, Milton Hardaway. came to OSU on a track scholarship. I think he was a shot putter. Billy was 307 pounds, and this is back in 76 and 77. He was nicknamed the USS Hardaway. Yeah. Kerry Blanchard, another kicker. Then you got Brailford, Ori Lemon, who was a high school quarterback and played linebacker at OSU and also had a stint with the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
Sim Drain III, shout out to him because his cousin and I worked together. His cousin actually played at Langston. Marcellus Rivers, Brent Blackman, Bill, that's a name you won't recognize. Brent played at OU in the early 70s. They had a chance to play for a Big 8 title. It was going to come down to OSU versus Nebraska. He was a great option quarterback, and the day of the Nebraska game, he suffered an appendicitis attack. Number 150, Rick Antle, Cowboy Rick, as he's known on local radio, was a walk-on and became all Big 8 caliber and has family members that have played since then.
Do you know who 151 was?
Billy
Scott
Mitchell.
Owens.
Billy Mitchell.
Scott Owens, 151.
Yeah, that's what you drink when you don't make anybody's list. Unfortunately, I am on some lists, but they're not the ones you want to be on. Bill, we got time to talk about Serve or
Talk about Serve.
come by Serve Coffee Shop downtown Bethany, bring a ream of paper or some other type of paper amount and get 10% off on your coffee. It's a great cause. Bethany Public Schools.
And remember, Crossover Radio, Excessive Celebration, get that app.